This week's Retail Week is brought to you by Avail, Phosphorus Fertilizer Enhancer. Never stop pushing. Hello again, welcome to another edition of Crop Life Retail Week. Paul Schrimpf here back with Eric Sfiligoj. I was feeling pretty good this morning, and then they started talking about metrics on the videos, and it turns out they're better off without me because the highest viewed video we've had in the history of this show is Eric alone. So
it was
thanks
the
very
topic.
much.
It was the topic. I was
Whatever.
talking about something people were interested in. So
Great.
okay.
I'll try to think about that. Focus on that. Anyway, it's been a busy week here at home, a busy week kind of away, and you've got a lot of news going on you're going to get into, but we also had the PrecisionAg Vision conference last week. Turned out to be really successful. We had about 185 people gathered. A lot of topics covered. I think that a couple of things that were interesting. We had a tour at the beginning, and we went to the University of Arizona. Maricopa Experiment Station. They have a huge robot, which they use. It's an overhead robot about the length of a football field, on rails, and it's on a scanner that's on a track that goes back and forth. It can scan the entire crop going down the field. And the idea is, it's actually funded by the Department of Energy, and the idea was to try to examine this sorghum as an energy crop, figure out how to grow it more efficiently, how to make sure that you're maximizing the crop for energy production, maximum sugar, so that then you can produce ethanol from that. That's a component of it, but all the information is being gathered up and sent to other universities and allowed to kind of proliferate and build on. So it's really good, interesting use of the technology, but it also, a lot of the discussion was around how the sensors have to be, when the sun is up and down, and at what point the sensors are used, and it really pointed to how difficult it is to use imagery and sensors overall. It seems like we take a lot for granted when we look at these images coming through, that they're actually reflective of exactly what's going on in the field, that they're actually telling us what we think they're telling us, and there's still work to be done, I think is the message from that they're still tweaking and trying to figure out exactly what the best reads are on sensors, and so it's imagery is still, we still have I think a little bit of a ways to go before we really have we can have full confidence in it. But that was an interesting part of the tour, and then of course the rest of the conference was just a great discussion on where we are with technology. There's some great stuff. There's still a lot of frustration, but overall it was a good conference.
Sounds good.
So how about, there's a lot of stuff going on here. Do you want to get right into that?
Dive right in. Yeah, thanks, Paul. Yeah, of course, obviously one of the things we've been following for the past several months of all the consolidation going on in the marketplace in crop protection. One company that's kind of sat on the sidelines up until now, however, has been BASF. And folks have wondered what moves the German-based company were going to make, and now they finally have. Paul, we found out BASF has agreed to buy Bayer's assets that they were selling to smooth the way for their merger with Monsanto. They're going to be purchasing for about $7 billion glufosinate, which is Liberty herbicide, of course.
It's easy for you to say.
Yes. And of course a bunch of seed lines, canola seed, cottonseed, and soybean seeds across the Europe and the Americas. So this is all predicated, of course, on Bayer and Monsanto's merger going through. But it looks like these assets will be changing hand, and BASF will be picking up 5 production facilities, 10 research R&D facilities, and about 1,800 employees total. So, Paul, this is a sea change for BASF. Now they're going to be getting into the seed market.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think talking to some of the folks in our cotton publication in Memphis, they're pleased that it's located in kind of a stable organization with BASF, who will likely have a great interest in taking it forward, and of course that down there with Liberty Link, and there's great interest in making sure that those crops and those systems continue to be viable and supported with lots of research and funding. So that's good to see.
Yeah, and I know I had said on a conference call Paul Ray from BASF had with the media, and he said that this is a great opportunity for the company to actually have established seed lines coming into its possession, and that they're looking to grow the brands as well moving forward. So
cool. Even more news after the break.
We want our farmers to be successful, and if they're spending money to put on phosphate in particular, we like to put a veil with it so that a lot more of that gets into the plant. We know that a majority of it gets tied up in the soil before a plant has a chance to work with it. So we like to put a veil to increase that availability to the crop.
Welcome back. Well, you got the next piece of news, which has to do with colors, and I wonder if the Green Bay Packers need to be put on notice. But anyway, go ahead and get into that.
Amen. Well, Paul, of course, colors are important in the equipment marketplace. I know that folks, you see yellow, you think AGCO, and you see red, you think Case. And of course, most people see green and yellow, they'll think John Deere. And actually, that was reaffirmed recently. A court in Kentucky has ruled that John Deere actually owns the color scheme of yellow and green. I guess there was another company in South Dakota called Femco that was using that color scheme, but according to the court decision, since John Deere has sort of trademarked these colors since the 1960s, they actually own it, so Femco has to cease and desist and no longer paint its products in yellow and green.
Interesting. Well, that's
where the colors crumble, right?
That's right. All right, and finally.
Well, I know, of course, when last couple of years, when you're talking precision, a lot of folks have talked about drones in the marketplace and their potential to maybe help folks gather data and scout fields more efficiently. But some folks have been concerned that drone operators who might not be the best at their craft could possibly get drones in the way of some aircraft. And up until now, we haven't had any problems, but lo and behold, Paul, we found out that last week they've confirmed that a drone actually flew into a commercial airliner in Quebec. No fatalities, no damage that was irreversible to the plane. The crew was able to land it safely, but obviously folks are now concerned that careless drone operators could ruin it for everyone.
Yeah, we've been talking about it for a long time, and it will ruin it for everyone if we don't be careful. I was going to mention too, if you have, in December, we have obviously the Crop Life 100 report coming out. We're doing a lot on retail and distribution. We just put out this October issue and online, the State of Distribution report, getting a lot of reaction from it. We really appreciate the reaction from the industry. We'll get into some of that, I think, in December as we unfold, and over the next couple of weeks we'll get additional comments and information for you on that. Feel free to send us any notes of what you think or agree with or don't agree with. We'd love to be able to publish a little bit more, keep the conversation going about the things that are going on in distribution and what we all need to be doing to be sustainable and survive and power on through the through the next 5-10 years and beyond.
Amen.
So that's it for this edition of Retail Week. Thanks for joining us, and we will see you next week. Thank you to this week's video sponsor, Avail Phosphorus Fertilizer Enhancer from Verdesian Life Sciences.